Okay, so in this video, I'm going to go through the blocking process for the Marchetti S211 trainer jet. Okay, so I'll be using this 3-view drawing as a reference to block out the model. So for this particular model drawing, the blueprints, I can see that it's a little bit tilted to one side, so we need to straighten it up. So to straighten an image in Photoshop, first you open up in Photoshop, make sure you unlock the layer, then go to use the ruler tool, which can be found under the eyedropper tool. Click and then use the ruler tool. Click on one end of the plane, the tail end of the plane, and then click and drag until you cut right in the center of the plane with the angle that will be recorded. Alright, so right now to straighten, you just go to edit, under image rotation, and choose arbitrary, and it will automatically input the angle that is detected from the ruler to straighten out the image. Okay, so right now the image is straightened. Okay, the next thing we want to do is to increase the canvas space so that this becomes a square image. So click on image canvas size and change the height to match the width. Basically, you want to take the longest length and replace the shortest length of the image. So now we have a square image. So now we're going to save this image and then bring it into Maya. We can export this as a JPEG and then export, and then export it into your Maya source images folder. So I'm going to put it inside this source images folder, and I'm going to use the default name and then save. Now I'm going to just verify one more time and make sure that I actually have an accurate image. So sometimes we cannot trust the blueprints we find on the internet because we might not know whether the length or the wingspan of this is actually accurate to this. So to find out is that we need to use the lasso tool, the polygon lasso tool. Click and hold under the lasso tool here, and I'm just going to extract the front view, and then I'm going to just line it up against the front view. Okay, so I'm going to cut this out, then I'm going to paste it back again, and then pressing Ctrl T to activate the transform tool, move your cursor until it becomes the rotation function and rotate it 90 degrees. You can hold down the shift so that it will snap and rotate. Next, we can reduce the opacity of this layer so you can see through the drawing, and then we can move and then make sure that the wingtips line up. So if you notice that there's a snapping going on, you can go under view, snap, turn it off. So now I'm just moving the wingtips, and then you can see that it matches. The width of the cockpit also matches. So I'll say that this drawing is okay. So for the front view, I'm just going to rotate it back, Ctrl T, and holding down the shift to rotate it back, to snap rotate it back. Okay, and I'll bring the opacity back to 100% again. Now what about the side view? So we want to make sure that the side view length, is matching the top view length. So using the same trick again, we go back to our base layer, and we're going to copy this out. Then we'll cut it out, and then press Ctrl V to paste it back in, then press Ctrl T so that we can rotate this to match the length of the plane. So holding down to shift, we can rotate it every 90 degrees. And again, I'm just going to move it side by side, and you can see that the length of this side view drawing is correct. So once I verify that this is okay, then let me just bring this layer back to the original location. Okay, I don't have to mess around with this because I already exported this out. So now I can bring in this square image into Maya. So go into Maya, hold on to shift right mouse click, create a plane. Reduce the plane down to 1 by 1 and then scale it up until it is beyond the grid. Right mouse click, assign new material, assign a surface shader, and then under the out color, assign the file. Under image name, click on open and select the corrected image. Press number 6 on your viewport in order to see the image. So if you've done this correctly, your image should be proportionally correct. Okay, there shouldn't be any distortion on the image. So the next step we want to do is to line up the image. So first, if you go to look at the top view, you want to make sure that your aircraft or whatever reference drawings that you're using is always pointing downwards. So select the plane, press E to rotate, hold on to J, and then snap rotate it 90 degrees. Then press W, and then line the plane up right in the center, so that the thick line over here cuts right in the center, like so. Okay, so you can also choose to move the pivot point by pressing D and then just holding down the X and then have it snap to the center. Then press D again to hide it. The reason why I did that is so that I can later extract out the rest of the references. Alright, so now I got my top view lined up. I can just push it downwards. Now once you have your top view lined up, the only direction your top view can move is up and down. Okay, so remember this. Next, I want to slice up this image so that I can line up the front view and then the side view. So I'm going to duplicate this by holding on to Shift D. Alright, and then I'm going to rotate this 180 degrees. Press E to rotate, holding down the holding down the J, and then grab the Y-axis to rotate. Then holding down to J again and rotate this 90 degrees, so now I can line up the side view. Press W to go to move, and then slide it forward until you can see that the plane is lined up in the nose tip. Now to verify whether the nose tip and the tail end matches, you can push the plane drawing down until it intersects the top view like this. So this is the best way for you to check whether it lines up or not. And at the same time, you can press D and then click on the Z and X axis plane and then move it down roughly to the center. Press D again to exit the pivot point. Alright, so now that we have our side view lined up, we can move the side view up until you can see that in this case, you can see the 3 wheels are touching the ground level. We want the ground level to match the same ground level as the grid, and then we can push this to the side. So right now, if I look at the right view, I should be looking at the left side of the plane. And if I go and look at the top view, I should be looking at the top view of the plane. Then now, what we are left with is the front view. So select the side view again and press Shift D to duplicate. You slide it forward and press E to rotate, and then holding down the J and rotate it forwards so that the plane is now facing, the front view is now facing the front. Now look out for the thick line here. Now we're looking at the front view. Press W and then move this front view until you have the front view ground plane line up on the ground and the center portion of the plane line up like that. You can press D to go to pivot point and then holding down to X, right, and have it snap in the center like that. Press D again to get it out. Alright, so now we have our front view lined up. We can push the front view back. Now we want to do a bit of trimming so that we know which view is which. So select the side view, select the face, shift right mouse click, use multi-cut tool, and slice one slice here, and just below the slice here. So the quick way to get rid of the other faces is to press Q, select the face that you want to keep, then go to select, invert select, and then press delete to delete away the faces. Go to object mode, and now we have trimmed our side view. Now to the front view, we'll go to the same thing again, shift right mouse click, go to multi-cut, and then holding down the control, and we start to isolate the front view by slicing the view like that. Press Q to go back to select. Select the the front view that you want to keep, go to select, inverse, and then press delete. Okay, right mouse click, go back to object mode. Then we'll do the same for the top view. So shift right mouse click on it and choose the multi-cut tool. Holding down the control, left mouse click, then go to the correct edge, left mouse click and left mouse click. Press Q to select the face you want to keep, go to select inverse and then delete. Alright, so now we have our three views all lined up, all proportionally scaled. Okay, now we want to lock them into position. So to lock them, just select all of them, go over to your channel box, click on the last button here, and then rename the layer, call them reference. Okay, let me just give it a color as well. And click on the third button here on the channel box to change them into reference, so that now I will not be able to select or move them. I'm going to rename my planes as well. Go over to the outliner, rename this as the top view. This one is the side view. This one is the front view. Now, because we do not have a lot of we don't have a back drawing, so the only way for you to determine what the back looks like is to use your references that you have downloaded. So if you have downloaded enough reference, this plane is quite common. So if you search for this particular plane, right, you should be able to find images on this particular aircraft, which is this one over here. Right, so for the back detail, there's a very nice photo that I managed to find, which you can use as reference to create the tail exhaust. Alright, so we'll be studying this photograph very closely later on in order to model this section. Okay, overall this plane is quite simple. Right, it is a it starts off with a circular nose and then it transitions into a ovoid shape with the jet intakes on the right hand side, and then you have almost straight wings sticking out from the side, and then almost straight stabilizer sticking out from slightly above the wing level, and then a single vertical stabilizer. Right, so again, I'm going to use my box modeling method, right, to create this. And since this is mostly a cylinder, I'll actually start off using a cylinder for this particular type of aircraft. So holding down the shift, right mouse click, I'll create a low poly cylinder. Okay, so how low? I think 8 should be enough. Okay, we'll start off with 8 subdivisions first, and then we'll gradually add in more detail as we move along. Okay, so we have a 8 subdivision cylinder, and we're just going to delete away half of the cylinder. Okay, this is just a habit. Okay, because I prefer to model my plane, right, using a reference. So I'm going to rotate this half cylinder 90 degrees forwards. Okay, remember to hold down to J to snap rotate. Okay. Then I'm going to switch over to my vertex and vertex mode, and then just scale it up until it is roughly the size of the reference. Okay, now I can actually duplicate a instance, duplicate special. Okay, and then duplicate to the other side. Now, of course, I want to assign a material to this so that I can see through this. So I'm going to assign a new Lambert material, and this Lambert material, I'm going to give it maybe a light blue color, but the transparency about 1/3 transparent. Okay, so apply it to the other half as well. Also turn on your wireframe unshaded, okay, which is this button over here, this one. So that right now, if I'm in my right view, I should be able to see through to the drawings. So next, I will select in vertex mode, grab all the vertices, and just move the vertices right until it covers the entire aircraft. Okay, we can go to the front view and then make sure that everything is lined up. Okay, so this one looks okay so far. So next, I'll gradually start to add in more and more subdivisions, right, so that I can do the transitions. So let's take a look at the shape of this aircraft. There's a transition over here. So I will insert one edge loop. Under multi-cut, insert one edge loop right about here. Then insert one more edge loop right about here. Right, so now we have to select these group of vertices here and move them down here, and then you can use scale. Now, when you are scaling, right, with half of the objects here, the problem is that when you scale that, your mirror, right, your mirrored half, right, will also be scaled outward. So remember to move this in until it touches each other. Let's go back to our right view again. Then we can move this section down until it forms roughly the nose section. Now for the rest, we can just grab the vertices and then just move them around until it matches the aircraft's shape. Like so. Alright, now we roughly blocked out the shape. Okay, we want to make sure that the front view, okay, the width of the fuselage is matching the drawing, and so far it looks good. Okay, right view also looks good. What about the top view? Okay, the top view looks good, except for the part here where the wing, the tail section of the wing, right, is actually tapering down to a narrower part. So what we need to do is to insert one edge loop that runs across here, and then press Q to go to select. Grab these vertices. You can use scale so that they will scale uniformly. Then press W and then just move them inwards until it follows the taper sections. And then this area needs to be wider a little bit, so I will insert one more edge loop here. Press Q to select, grab these vertices, press W, and then just pull it out slightly. So right now from the top, it starts to look okay. Okay, the nose section, I'll just taper it in like that. Going to the side view again. Now, let's insert a couple more edge loops here to form the canopy section. So I will insert one edge loop here and one edge loop here. Then grabbing the vertices, I can move this up and then move this out like that. Okay, so you can see that roughly we have the shape of the airplane is blocked out. So at this stage, we are still blocking. We are not adding the details to like the canopy and all that. So right now we can start to move the vertices, right, so that it starts to form the rest of the aircraft, the shape of the aircraft. For example, you can see here the side, right, it forms the jet intake. Alright, so this is the part, right, where we need to insert more edge loops and also select the faces to extrude out the jet intakes. So if we take a look from the top, you can see that the jet intake, right, comes up from the side and then it transitions in like that. So we need to select a bunch of edge loops to pull it out, and also the wing, right, is merged right on top of this section like that. Alright, so we can take a look at this. You can see how much it bulges out. Now, if you find it too difficult, you can always model this section separately. You can create another cube and then just model it out. Okay, let me just show you quite quickly. Okay, a cube can be created and then be used as a blocking piece. All right. Right, and then this one transitions back into here. Right, so that is one way to do the jet intake. Alright, so that is using a cube. Alright, so let me just remove that. But I want this to transition as part of the aircraft body, so I will determine where is the section, right, which I can insert more edge loop. So I'm going to insert one more edge loop. Okay, this top part here is actually straight, so I will pull this up until it is lined up with the aircraft like that. And I'll insert one more edge loop here. Okay, I'll put the edge loop here, and then move the extra detail, right, so that it starts to follow the cockpit shape like that. So now that I have all this extra detail, I will start to move the vertices to match the shape. So right now I have enough faces, right, to actually pull out the jet intake from these faces here. So let me check, where does the transition end? Okay, end around at this. Okay, let me go to the top view. I will want to insert one edge loop. Okay, I'll grab these edge loops here and push it back to here. Right, so that means the jet intake, right, will start off from these faces here. Probably this bottom face as well. So let's take a look at the right view. Yep, so I'll grab all these faces here, and then I will extrude out a section to form the jet intake. Alright, so you can hold on to shift and grab the arrow to extrude. Okay, if you don't know, that is one way that you can do that. And then right now you can see that it is a very chunky piece that is being dragged out. So for the back part here, we can grab the vertices and then push it back in. Okay, I'm going to use the scale tool to flatten this and pull it back in. Same for this one, just push it back in. Alright. So right now I'm just pushing and pulling these vertices so that it transitions a little bit better, so it melts into the side of the fuselage. Okay, and then you notice that there is this big intake hole in front, so we need to take note of that hole. So go over to the right view, and we want to move the vertices down so that it forms the shape of the jet intake. So there are a bunch of additional vertices over here. We're going to grab it and then pull it up. Okay, I'm going to just pull this out a little bit. Okay, and then use my front view and start to sculpt it so that it has a much more rounded look. Okay, this is one area a lot of beginners have troubles trying to figure out. Okay, because they don't know, they are not sure which vertex is which. Okay, you want to move the vertices until you have this nice rounded section like that. Okay, so now I need to create a hole, right, to match this area, and I need to do something called reflow. I need to reflow my topology a little bit. So I'm going to use the knife tool, multi-cut tool, to cut from here to here and all the way to here. Okay, I'm not going to worry about the triangle face first, because I really want to select this section here and create a hole. Alright, so I'm going to grab these faces here. Okay, let me just check in the front view, make sure that, yep. So I just need to select these two faces here, and then I'll do an extrude. and I'll use a offset, just offset it inwards like that, and this will form my jet intake. I'm going to move this out slightly a bit, go to vertex, and then start to move the vertices to match the shape of the hole. Okay, I can also select these two faces and extrude it inwards so that they form the jet intake. Goes inwards like that. Alright, so now I blocked out the jet intake and also blocked out the most part of the fuselage, and you can see the number of faces is still relatively low. I do not want to increase too many vertices. Okay, now I want to create the nose tip cone here. So I want to insert one loop cut here. Go to edge mode, double click here, use scale to flatten it. And then we can grab these vertices and we can try to squeeze them together. Go to the perspective view and then press W to move it close like that. Okay, I'll get rid of that. I don't need that. Okay, right now we can start to create the wings. Now, you can choose to create the wings separately, or you can choose to extrude the wings out from the section here. Now, naturally, if you have the wings coming out from the side of the aircraft, it's definitely going to look much nicer. We can identify which area, right, we can start to pull out the faces. Okay, but that will involve us inserting more edge loops. So in this case here, there's still not enough vertex, right, to pull out the faces, or rather the wings. Okay, so we will have to insert a couple of edge loops. So what I'll do is I'll push this face up here so that I have enough detail, right, to pull out the wing. Okay, you can see the wing here. It forms this aerofoil shape very nicely. Okay, so I will make sure that I have enough faces, right, to actually create that shape. Okay, this one maybe I have to pull this one back. Okay, I'll insert one more edge loop here. Okay, I need to study how these faces look like. Okay, so I think I identified these faces here as more suitable. So I'm just going to move this thing up here. Then I'll insert one edge loop right about here. So now it should give me enough vertices to pull out a wing. And here I can see, you can see the wing is starting to form, or rather the cross section of the wing. And I can select these four faces and they will form my wing. So now with it selected, I can hold on to shift and then pull out along the y-axis. Press R to scale to flatten it. You can go to the top view and then you can see that we are pulling up the entire chord of the wing. All we need to do is just pull the wing selected faces all the way to the end, then press R to scale, scale it down, press W and then push it back, and we have our wing. You can use scale along the z-axis, or rather the z-axis, to get the wing to fit the wing tip. So right now we have our wing created. Okay, we will refine the wing a little bit later. Now we are going to look at the vertical tail fin. Now for the vertical tail fin, I think I'm going to just model it separately. I do not want to pull it out from the section here, even though I can actually extrude it out from this face. So I will create a cube, push the cube back, go to the top view, make sure that the cube is right at the center of the tail fin. I'm going to assign it with the same material. Go to vertex mode, scale it down along the x-axis, and then just scale it until it matches the general shape of the tail fin. Use the right view and grab the vertices, position them in place to form the tail fin section. Now remember, all these aircraft, right, has an aerodynamic shape, so you need to make sure you insert the edge loops at the correct location. Alright, so right now I want to create a rounded nose section of this leading edge of the tail fin. And then the tail part here should be narrower, so go to the top view. Okay, we need to select these group of vertices here, go to the top view, and then use scale to scale it down so it becomes tapered like that. And the front part of these faces here, you can select the face here like that. And just scale it inwards so that they form this cross section. Then we have our vertical tail fin. Okay, if you want to follow this gentle slope here, we have to insert one more edge loop here. Now if you're into precision, right, eventually you might want to cut out this section here so that you can rotate this rudder. Okay, right now we are just blocking it out, so we do not want to add too much detail. Okay, so right now we are left with the stabilizer. Right, the stabilizer is quite straightforward. Again, we can start off with a cube. Okay, let me just name my parts first. This one will be the vertical stabilizer, vertical fin. This would be the fuselage. Fuselage 2. Alright, so I have not saved this yet, so let me just save, which is very dangerous. Please save regularly. Okay, and then finally the tail fin. Start with a cube. Okay, move the cube back again. Assign it with the same material so we can see through. And get the basic shape to match from the drawing first. Okay, go to the side view. Okay, position it over the reference. Okay, I want to give this one a nice airfoil shape, so I will split this into half. Hold down the control for multi-cut and middle mouse click, so it'll cut exactly in half. And we want to give it a airfoil shape, so I need to include one more edge loop right across this section here. right about here. And just gonna scale this down, scale this back portion down, scale this front portion so it forms the tail fin. Okay, so now we only have one side of the stabilizer. We can apply a mirror to this, so let me just move the pivot point to the center, snap it to the center. Then we can go to mesh and mirror this. Mirror, and then we have an extra stabilizer on the other side. So we have now blocked out our airplane and we are ready to gradually add more and more details. So that is how you do your blocking. So I'll stop the video now.